MLK week. Always the one time you got to be on top of things on the NBA season. It's the one Monday you can count on every year where you got to get your lineup set first thing in the morning here out in the Pacific Coast. Other parts of the world, I suppose it's either a little bit easier or a little bit harder, but we are through that. Hopefully, everybody was able to make the decisions they needed to make yesterday, and we rumble along into the week. Welcome to the show, everyone. This is Fantasy NBA Today. I am Dan Besbris, as he farts all over himself. Sports Ethos presentation. So yesterday it was fun. It was we had a few really good basketball games mixed in there. Interestingly, Lakers-Rockets turned out to be kind of a fun ball game. Lakers, I don't know how they did it, but they covered in a game that there were a few stretches in there where it felt like they might actually lose that one. The matchups were a little bit goofy. The games that you thought might have been the great ones turned out to be a little bit clunky. Some of the ones that you thought, maybe this one could have some legs, they turned out to be good, like Utah, Minnesota. That was a fun one. Raptors, Knicks, that one had good written on it. And a lot of times you can look at the Vegas line on a game, and if it's under like 3 points, you figure, all right, well, this one's got at least a decent shot to be a good ball game. But that wasn't always the case. Miami didn't really show up. Wizards kind of hung in there for a little bit, but then the Warriors trounced them late. And most of the other ones were over relatively early. And then we had some big performances in the nightcap. My only complaint on the MLK Day slate was the needlessly long layoff between the Memphis Phoenix blowout, which was over by middle of the third quarter, and Lakers Rockets, which started a solid 2 hours after the previous game ended. It was almost like there was originally a game scheduled in there, and then it had to get canceled for some reason. But that wasn't the case. That we're not in COVID cancellation season right now, which, by the way, good news, because COVID is sweeping through, and the league's kind of hanging in there so far. So that's great news on that front. The fact that we haven't really had to bring it up at all is wonderful news. So that was the MLK Day gripe. My other gripe is that 5-6 years ago, when I didn't have a kid to take care of on MLK Day morning, I could actually just lounge out and watch all of these ball games. But I got a pretty good chunk of them. By like the middle of the big wave, the games that started around noon Pacific time, by the middle of those games, I was pretty well tuned in. The one I missed was, I don't think I saw a second of Boston Charlotte, but we're still going to break that ball game down, even if I didn't get to watch it live. I enjoy watching these games live. I think we can pull more from them when you watch them live. And I think that all of you should take a little bit of that. And that's how we're going to actually open today's show. Is I don't want to do a whole long segment on it. But a quick one, just to note, there really is value in watching the ball games, both from a fantasy standpoint and just from a understanding basketball standpoint. But Boston Charlotte, we can start with that one, is actually a really good indicator of a game where you can read a box score, which is what we're going to do with that ball game. But I would feel much more confident if I had seen this entire ball game all the way through. Now, the obvious stuff is the obvious stuff. And pretty much everything on Charlotte right now is the obvious stuff, which is basically the starting five are currently all startable. Cool. At some point, Gordon Hayward comes back, and then maybe that changes because he's been bad, and then Jalen McDaniels is going to lose a lot of what he's been kind of allowed to do here with all of the wings dealing with some stuff. And then on the Boston side, that's the other thing. Okay, you can look at box scores, and you might get frustrated by some stuff. I know Robert Williams playing 27 minutes. That's a game where, 27 minutes, you figured he's got to be pushing double-digit rebounds, and he was close. He had 9 of them, but you wanted more than one defensive stat in 27 minutes. But you know what? It didn't happen. And it'd be nice to look at that ball game and say, okay, well, why didn't this happen? Was it just fluky? Because 27 minutes with him, it's always going to level off. Al Horford, 31 minutes. His numbers weren't all that far off from kind of the projected. His rebounds were a little lower. And some of that was because Tatum had 9 boards and Grant Williams had 9 boards and Charlotte was firing away. They were going 3-point happy in this ball game a little bit. They made 13 of them, but they missed quite a few. And so then you're like, all right, okay, long rebounds, small forwards, power forwards. Maybe they got a better angle at this stuff. So little things like that you can take in that you really like. You can deep dive the box score. You can try to figure it out, but seeing it in action, oh, that rebound clanged over the free throw line kind of thing. All right, my big guy didn't really have a chance at it. That would be a good thing to know. But overall, we mostly, in season long, we grade things out on the long curve, which is for a guy like Robert Williams, if he's playing this quantity of minutes, he's easy top 50, probably higher. And Al Horford in over 30 minutes a ball game. There's really no concern for me there because he's been good. He's coming off a really nice ball game his last time out. And he's Big Al, you know? They love what he does. And he's a guy that pretty consistently has one of the best plus-minus markers on that team as well. Jaylen Brown was out. I think he's expected to miss another ball game or two. I can't remember if they said like just under a week or if they're going to check things out around then. But Derek White, who left the previous ball game, actually played in this one. If he had sat this thing out, you would have been able to go real heavy on Malcolm Brogdon. I still think Brogdon is startable with Brown out because they're going to need that additional scoring sock. They happen to get some of it from White in this ball game, but that's not something that they count on Boston regularly. So good news for the guards, basically, Smart, White, and Brogdon, that Brown's usage tends to go some of it to Tatum, but his is already so damn high that it almost can't go much higher than it was. And then the other guards pick up the slack there. So opportunity to use all three of those guys. Not that you weren't starting Marcus Smart anyway, but just a little footnote there. Milwaukee, still without Giannis, but they got the win over Indiana without Tyrese Halliburton. One team was able to kind of pick up the pieces a little better than the other. Drew Holiday looked more like Drew Holiday here, 35 and 11. Grayson Allen, not a bad stream with Middleton and Giannis out. Most of the Giannis stuff goes to Bobby Portis, but Allen does seem to kind of be the next guy in the, okay, besides Holiday, you can wipe him off the board because we know he's going to do more stuff. But among the more fringy players, who gets the bigger bump between like a Grayson Allen or a George Hill or a Pat Connaughton or a Javon Carter, who basically didn't get to do anything? The safe one there is Grayson Allen. But it's also worth pointing out, no Joe Ingles in this one. This was the second half of a Bucks back-to-back. He tends to take a little bit away from Allen, from Connaughton, from Portis, from even Jordan Nwora. Which makes any of those guys in a non-Giannis, non-Middleton situation a little bit more complicated. Good news out of Bucks country is that Middleton was once again assigned to the Bucks G League team, the Herd, for their Tuesday. I believe it's a practice today. That means he's getting real close. They're getting him extra practices in. They're trying to basically get him conditioned. They want to get the conditioning back up because he's missed a bunch of time and the season's been a wreck. So they're trying to kind of ease him in a little bit, which is a little bit what we talked about on a show last week where I was like, look, I actually don't mind sending good players to go practice with the G League, or even hell, you could send them to go play with the G League because it's so important to get their body attuned to a full basketball length performance or even part of one without the rigors, the intensity, the pressure of an NBA game. The humans are bigger, are stronger at that level than what you're going to get out of even your teammates in practice, but certainly what you get out of a practice in the G League. You got to just slowly work up to it. If you practice a couple of times with your team and they say, oh, it's full contact. Okay, that's true, but like getting trucked by LeBron in a ball game is very different than whatever contact they're getting in a quote-unquote full contact practice. So I actually like this for Middleton. Take it a little bit slow here. It sounds like he's basically there. I think we probably see him before this week is done. I don't know what to expect out of Giannis. His stuff has been a little bit nebulous lately, but I can't imagine it's going to be all that long. So we'll just sort of roll with it. On the Indiana side, TJ McConnell exploded. 4 3-pointers. I believe this is a career high in scoring for him. 5 boards, 9 assists, 3 steals. Don't expect more three-pointers from McConnell. He might go the next 3 games without hitting a single one of them. But you know what? You got 4 of them here, and damn it, it counts towards whatever you were doing, whether it's head-to-head or roto. It's in that bucket now. He's an easy call. Andrew Nembhard is the harder call between them, but I'm still pro Nembhard. And I know his 2 games without Halliburton have not been particularly good. Or is that 3 now? 7 points, 9 assists, a couple of steals. Again, the story with him is if he even hits 40% of his shots, heaven forbid he gets up to like 45% of his shots, then he's putting up a pretty good set of ball games. Because I think he hit like 18% in his first game without Halliburton, and this one he went 3 for 9. He's out there, and he's the starting unit point guard. And on top of everything else, he's a starting unit point guard that's not a bad foul shooter and can hit 3-pointers and gets you some steals. I still think there's a lot to like there. I would hold Nembhard if you can. I understand if like there are other players calling your names. There's a lot going on every day right now, but I don't know. To me, there's still a bit of upside built in with him. And as soon as he has a confidence builder game, well, then you can really kind of ride it. Benedict Mathurin in the starting unit had previously been probably startable because he was getting so many shots. But now with McConnell taking a ton and Miles Turner coming back, that does muddy the waters a little bit on the Mathurin front. He's someone that he got 8 shots up and 6 free throws in this ball game. And that's not nearly enough. I know he had 8 rebounds too, which is good because typically all he does is score. He needs to be going heavy on the volume if he deserves to get in your fantasy lineup. Certainly on the roto side. Head-to-head, like I guess if you're targeting points, that's kind of a little bit of a different story. I would hold on him in this non-Halliburton situation, but I don't think that's a lock either. Warriors over the Wizards. Wizards and Warriors. I always love to do a little regular Nintendo reference when we get to this twice-a-year matchup. Jordan Poole has actually been weirdly efficient lately. And, I don't know if it was just circumstance or what, but his field goal percent is up to 43.5. He's not going to be a big steals guy. I know he got 2 steals and a block in this ball game. That's not what you're expecting to get from him. You're just hoping that the efficiency comes around because his volume was so high. But if you peel that down a little bit, and I don't think the assists are going to be particularly high either with the Warriors generally healthy. And I know there was no Klay Thompson in this one, so this helped also. You don't have to yell at me about that. But just lately, he's been a better shooter for the Warriors. And kind of hanging on all year because I don't know that you had many choices with him. Maybe finally starting to turn a corner, kind of like Terry Rozier. They weren't that different, honestly, this year. I think Rozier has been a bit more consistent just as a starting 5 member. Steph is back, 41. Dante DiVincenzo is someone I think you can probably move on from. Wiggins hasn't really hit his stride yet, but when this team's fully healthy, there just kind of isn't enough for anybody coming off the bench. For the Wizards, getting a lot of should I drop Daniel Gafford questions, and I still feel the answer is no. 22 minutes, 6 out of 8 shooting, made his free throws. Like, the only beef for me in this was that I was kind of hoping he'd get more than 5 boards, but like 6.5 is probably the target for him. And then the block. You would want a block, and then you would obviously love more than one, but everything else kind of went according to plan for Gafford. He was a plus 17 in a game his team lost by 9, which, a little bit suspect. I'm hanging on to Gafford. I'm not adding Monte Morris. I know he had 17 and 10 because Bradley Beal is right around the corner, and we know that everybody loses all of their shots when Beal comes back. The name I would watch on this team, the guy who can put up fantasy stats consistently in those types of minutes at least, would be DeLon Wright, who really hadn't gotten much in the way of a run. By the way, he was a minus 19 in this game, so it's not like he got his bonus run because he was clobbering. But 9 points, 7 assists, 2 steals. He becomes a pretty viable specialist if all of a sudden he starts getting 25 to 29 minutes instead of, 16 to 22. Because where he had been wasn't enough consistently for him to be anything more than I'm going to pick him up in my head-to-head league on a back-to-back, and I hope I get 4 steals out of those 2 ball games. This number, 27 and change, almost 28 minutes, that's enough to be a full-time starter. I do need to see it again. I don't think we can make the call to go on that one unless he does it another time, because this was really it. And maybe it was Beal, maybe it was other guys just not playing well. Kispert only got 28 minutes, so his number kind of came down a little. Hard to know exactly. There wasn't a whole lot of foul stuff going on, so you can't really blame it on that. Wizards just kind of mixed and matched differently. But if the mixing and matching differently ends and lands on DeLon more often, you roll with it because he's got a sweet fantasy game. Toronto beat the Knicks in overtime. For the Raptors, this is the start of a 5-game week, and I'm sure all of them were really hoping to play 45 minutes here. This is Tom Thibodeau and Nick Nurse in the minute per game battle is gross. Truly. Scotty Barnes, 45. Siakam, 46. Van Vliet, 45. Trent, 42. Anunoby. Siakam and Anunoby actually each had some foul stuff going on, and they still put up these gigantic minute per game totals. Over on the Knicks side, RJ Barrett, 49 minutes. That's wild. Anyway, no surprises in this game. Just a crap load of minutes. Like a just obscene number of minutes in this ball game. Quick pause here on the recorded side to remind everybody watching live on YouTube to please click that like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, you're probably seeing the chat room buzzing along over there on the side. Throw it in there. We have a live Q&A coming up after the show where we speed through anything that comes in here on the YouTube chat room over there to the side on PC and hanging out underneath my head over on mobile. So make sure you get your stuff in there. And again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We want to keep growing this thing, and it's going to be with all of your assistance. Let's dive back into the actual recorded show. The bad news that came out of yesterday, Donovan Mitchell left early with a tweaked groin. It doesn't sound super serious, but groin stuff is always a little bit serious. He's already listed as doubtful for the Cavaliers' next ball game, which I believe is tomorrow. Right? Yeah, he's tomorrow. What we've seen in the past is that Karis LeVert does tend to do a little bit more when Mitchell's out, but LeVert, bad percentages, high turnovers guy. So when you're bad at those three things, you tend to look more towards points leagues. I had someone over in the YouTube comments talk about how referring to them as points league only is a little bit short-sighted. And then honestly, he's right, but it's sort of like speed nomenclature for fantasy analysts and podcasters. The long version of that is someone like a Karis LeVert is points league friendly, a points league option, because of the three categories where he tends to struggle: field goal, free throw, and turnovers, things that generally are not weighted particularly heavily on the points league side. But if you happen to be in a head-to-head league where, let's say, you're punting turnovers and one of the two percentages, then he only has one negative. And could there be some points and assists and steals and stuff like that? Yeah, that's a possibility. Still, now with Ricky Rubio healthy, they don't have to go to LeVert as the other option. So I don't know that he's an ad regardless, but I did feel like this was a perfectly reasonable time to sort of drop in that nugget that the feedback was, again, accurate. But we have to find a way to keep things speeding through a little bit on shows like this. So if I say something is a points league is a guy who's mostly or better suited or well suited or mostly suited for points leagues, that basically just means they're bad at percentages and turnovers. And if you're punting that stuff, just make that adjustment in your head. Like that's the connector piece there. Over on the Pellies side, still big games for Jonas Valanciunas. Now this one again, matchup-wise made sense because the Cavs are big. They run a big front line between Jared Allen, who not surprisingly just crushed JV. Kevin Love in reserve there. Evan Mobley is a big power forward. So the Pels were able to kind of go large as well. They've needed JV's scoring. That's a big part of it with no Ingram and no Zion. There is now growing frustration. Some of the articles are starting to come out in Pels country. Where the hell is Brandon Ingram? And I wish I knew, people. I wish I knew. He's gone lost in the deepest tunnels of who knows where. And this is all from a toe injury. There's just like no updates. Every once in a while we get this trickle of, oh yeah, he's doing some stuff. We're like, oh, does that mean he's no? Not much you can do besides just squat on it and hope Jose Alvarado's seen his minutes tick up here lately with a lot of guys out. He's intermittently fantasy useful. This was a better ball game. You're mostly hunting steals if you're playing Jose, and then you hope you get like a 3-pointer and 4 or 5 assists, which you did in this one. But the 3 steals was the big heavy weight in this ball game. That was the good stuff. Would I use him in a roto league? No. Would I use him when the schedule allows for Pels head-to-head, like if they have the 3 games in 4 nights type of thing? Yeah, that's more. So when I say schedule streamer, that's basically what that means. Trey Murphy, on the other hand, he's someone I would use in all formats. He's got his confidence back. He's back up to 14 shots in this game, second most on the team. I know he didn't have a great plus-minus in the ball game, but overall, he looks like he's kind of feeling his oats a little bit. And then Najee Marshall's another guy we've talked about as a bit better suited for points leagues because typically turnovers are weirdly high for someone who's not really orchestrating. Field goal and free throw percent. Free throw's actually kind of been okay for him. Field goal was better in this one, but generally a little bit lower. Rebounds and assists have been fine. Non-spectacular, but fine. He's not someone I've used in Roto either. He's someone that I think is slightly better than a schedule streamer, but not particularly Roto friendly. Atlanta beat Miami 121-113. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo had good ball games. Victor Oladipo had 10 assists, and he's been a start lately. But the big news here was Tyler Hero came back, took 16 shots, which is fine. I mean, he's good. But his return meant that Gabe Vincent only got 10. And that was the big story for Miami over the weekend. Gabe Vincent got a crap ton of offensive opportunity when Hero and Lowry were each out for the Heat. But now that one of them is back, more specifically the one who takes a lot of shots in a ball game, Vincent becomes, he's still good, but he's a little bit more of a placeholder. And he'll put up these kind of like Kyle Lowry light type of lines. Some threes, some steals, not as many assists. Lowry's going to do better there. He's probably going to score a little bit better once he's back. Does Vincent still make sense as someone you can hang on to in head-to-head? Yeah, I think he probably does slide down more towards that schedule stream bucket, but probably not so much anymore in the Roto bucket, which is where he was when both backcourt guys were out. Clint Capella made his return for Atlanta. He came off the bench and played 21 minutes. He'll ramp up towards starters level production, and then he and Okongwu will probably flip at some point, because the Hawks are generally just better with Capella's rebounding and defense on the court. So if you have Okongwu, this is kind of your little bit of a last hurrah. Bogdan Bogdanovic, getting a lot of questions about him. He is ice freaking cold, and he does run really hot and cold. So no, I would not drop him. Absolutely not. When he's hot, he can run top 70. When he's cold, he's going to fall outside the top 100. But overall, he probably does profile more as that kind of 90 range guy, because he's a pretty high usage bench player who does get some assists, who does tumble into a steal every once in a while, and definitely knocks down 3 balls. But he's cold right now. And honestly, I would consider a buy situation on Bogdanovic, because we know he's not going to shoot under 20% most ball games. We also know that he's going to get a fair number of shots most ball games. This game happened to be played at a very slow pace and just had a lot of points because Atlanta shot almost 60%. The pace in this game was crazy low. So usually there are even more possessions for the Hawks. 121 points is fine, but shots might be higher. I still think Bogdan is going to be fine. And maybe I'll try, if time allows today, it's going to be kind of a busy day, to get out on Twitter. That, again, of course, is at Dan Vespris on Twitter. I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,001, damn it. And figure out what the actual perceived value is for Bogdan Bogdanovic, because I feel like the perceived value is lower than the real value right now, and that's good. That means that you can probably get him a little bit on the cheap. All right, what do we got next? Utah, Minnesota. That was a fun one. Walker Kessler 2020 game. Now, grain of salt on a lot of stuff here with Utah, because when Lauri Markkanen is out and his very high usage rate, he and Jordan Clarkson are the guys that typically chew up all the shots in a ball game. That means more minutes for Kessler and Jared Vanderbilt and Malik Beasley, more shots for all 3 of those guys, more shots for Conley, more shots for Colin Sexton. It's hard to get Jordan Clarkson any more shots than he was already taking, so not quite as heavily impacted. But what you're seeing here with Utah is, when one big usage guy goes down, now Kelly Olynyk is already down. He's not a big usage guy, but his minutes were already available. That's a lot. I mean, you're talking about 60 plus minutes between those two guys. And, even with Olynyk on the lower usage frame, a lot between the two of them getting redistributed here. What does it mean for what happens when Markkanen comes back? Because the expectation is that he's not going to be out all that long. I wouldn't make any large tweaks to your Utah projections based on Markkanen missing a couple ball games. When Lauri's back, Vanderbilt was a guy who was really hanging on by a thread. He's moved back above that here with Lauri and Olynyk out. I don't know that he survives fantasy rosters when either of those two guys comes back, but he's bought himself a little bit more time for now. Conley, kind of the same story. I've used this analogy on the show of him just kind of holding the steering wheel on a ship or van or whatever the Jazz are driving around in these days. Conley's just kind of steering the boat. But when all these guys go down, they're like, Mike, we need you to do some stuff, man. And he was a team best +9. He's critical to what they do. And now we're seeing rumors popping up. Oh, everybody wants to trade for Mike Conley. If Utah trades Conley, they are no longer competing because he's the guy that keeps them like at least near a 500 ball club when he's healthy. They need that veteran presence to steer the boat. I like Mike more when he has to do more than hold the steering wheel steady, when he actually might have to turn it every once in a while. So he's another one that's a little bit of a question mark when Markkanen comes back. Kessler is above the threshold easily, and he's just blowing past it now with everybody out. So he falls back when people return, yes, but he's still going to be a start. Sexton's another one where, right now I might trust him in head-to-head. Beasley, I probably would trust him in head-to-head, but not Roto, even with all of these guys out. And then definitely not when guys start coming back. I see we've had a little influx of new live viewers, so hello to all of you that just joined us. Please do take a second to click that like button. I think we're only at 20 likes right now on the show, so I want to get that up a little bit. But more than anything, if you're new and you're enjoying going through some of these games and you're enjoying the fact that at the end of the show, we will have a live post-show Q&A in the YouTube chat room. So throw your questions in there. I'll answer them live here after the show. It'll be in this same YouTube, so you don't have to go anywhere. But if you have a question, throw it in there. This is the time to do it. So please do like and subscribe if you're enjoying what we're doing here. We're trying to get a lot more content out on our YouTube channel. I know the production quality is not that outstanding, and frankly, I should have switched it to this a long time ago. Sorry, so you guys can actually see the freaking results that I'm talking about. Bad Dan. Well, I switched it now. But seriously, though, throw some questions over there in the chat room. And follow me on Twitter at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. The link is in the description of the show. So you can just scroll down and do show more. And it's like the second paragraph there. So definitely want to see you guys over on Twitter. We do a crap ton of work over there. Anybody in the chat room can verify this. It's a truckload. But let's dive back in here. Let's finish up going through some of these boxes. Triple-double for Slow-Mo. You guys know how much I love Kyle Anderson. He's a roto darling. 13, 11, and 10. A steal, a block, a three-pointer, 6 out of 12 shooting, 0 turnovers. The only thing he didn't do was hit a free throw, but he didn't miss any either. Oh, man. My whole body just quivers with delight when I see Kyle Anderson and the Slow-Mo fantasy lines. We still don't really know what the hell's going on with Cat. My assumption is that he'll be back in the next 2 to 3 weeks, but we don't really know. And also of note in this ball game, Rudy Gobert, who, by the way, I have a little bit of beef with Rudy on this particular ball game because over the when Rudy left the previous game with a tweaked groin, I picked up Naz Reid everywhere, and I mean every frickin' where. Head-to-head, roto, you name it, because I was like, ain't no way this team's going to play Rudy Gobert with a sore groin after we've seen all these guys try to play through groin and hamstring and calf stuff and then end up missing a ridiculous amount of time. And then, bop, there he was. Rudy Gobert, available to play. And so I went through and I pulled over to the side of the road. I was driving my kid because it was yesterday morning, MLK Day morning. And like apparently the only thing open on MLK Day is a little rock climbing gym. And my kid's never done it. So we went there and I'm driving home. I'm like, okay, is Rudy in? Is Rudy in? Is Rudy in? Because I had Nas in every roto lineup. And bloop, there it is. I'm at a stoplight. I'm like, all right, sorry, dude, we got to pull over for 1 sec. Daddy's got to screw with his fantasy team on the side of the road. And I did. And I yanked him out of every lineup. And honestly, it turned out fine because Nas was kind of hobbling a little bit himself. I think there was concern that maybe his back was sore. And he ended up picking 5 fouls up in this game also, so that kind of capped his minutes. But he still had 7.7 boards and 2 blocks and a 3-pointer only 22 minutes. All's well that ends well, I suppose, since we didn't blow games cap on a top 100 type of Nas Reed line. But I am sort of, I don't want to say grateful because that's the wrong word. I don't want Rudy Gobert to be hurt, but I do feel contented in that I didn't drop Nas Reed when I saw that Gobert was playing yesterday, because so quickly in the ballgame, Rudy then left, did it again, can't make it through the game again, guys. And now you've got to think they're going to give him a few days off. It'd be so dumb if they let him try again in their next ball game. That would just be the stupidest thing ever. But, I mean, NBA teams these days. Nas Reed should have at least one game, probably more, of delightful power. And honestly, it helps Kyle Anderson too, because Rudy Gobert sucks up all the interior stuff, and Slow-Mo is your power forward, so he's going to kind of get what the center doesn't get. Reed's a very good rebounder as well. But he's not Rudy Gobert, so this does help him too. So hang on to those Nas Reeds, everyone. I think this could be kind of a fun little mini run for him. Memphis blew out the Zombie Suns. Mikal Bridges had a pretty good start to this ball game. He ended up riding that to a decent line overall. But on the whole, this was rough. Memphis is very good. And Phoenix, even at closer to full strength, is struggling these days, but now with 2 starters and then just nobody, this was tough. They need people back. Chris Paul apparently is relatively close, they're saying. Cam Johnson is now getting close. By the way, if you were considering a Cam Johnson stash, this would probably be the time to do it. In the meantime, Landry Shamet is running point for the Suns, and I think against a less tenacious team, he's probably a start, provided no one comes back that was missing for this ball game. Because he had 6 assists, 4 rebounds, he had a 3-pointer, he got 9 shots up. He was being hounded by Dylan Brooks most of the time he was out there, and so that Brooks is, for all of his foibles on the offensive side, he is a very good point of attack defender, one-on-one guy. And so there was just no way that Shamet was going to put up a good game against Dylan Brooks, not with these guys around him. But let's wait and see who's in and who's out for the Suns. We have to kind of make a decision every game based on what's happening for that team on any given night. And then everybody had to wait 2.5 hours. Luckily for you, I won't make you wait 2.5 hours on this show to talk about the Lakers and the Rockets. And the big stories here, the big lines actually in this ballgame were the big stories. Alperen Sengun, 33, 15, 6, and 4 blocks, and just 8 Thomas Bryant alive in this ball game. Lakers couldn't even keep Bryant on the floor. He was getting roasted so hard on defense. And teams are now attacking a bit more against LA. We saw the Lakers adjust their defense a little bit. And this is maybe getting too far into the weeds on the Lakers. But if you're wondering how this whole center situation is going to go, let's start at the top. First of all, latest report on Anthony Davis, Shams Charania was on it was like a Bally's something show yesterday, and he talked about how AD is targeting an early February return. He mentioned that AD wants to be back before the All-Star break. Now, that's a relatively sizable window because the All-Star game is, I think, February 19th. Is that a Sunday? Yeah, so the All-Star break starts on February 15th or 16th. So it's basically like a 2-week window. I want to be back in early February, but before the All-Star break. Gives him 2 weeks in February to get into a ball game. I don't know what the actual AD timeline is going to be. It sounds like probably not before January is over. So you're looking at least 2 more weeks. Earlier this year, the Lakers' defensive scheme involved funneling players towards Anthony Davis, which is not a terrible idea. He's not as quick as he used to be, but he's still an absolute behemoth protecting the rim against everybody other than the fastest dudes in the NBA. So the Lakers would chase ball handlers around screens. They generally went over screens, try to prevent the open three-point look, and funnel people towards Davis to create that kind of tougher mid-range or floater type of look. It's basically the Lakers are saying, we're going to go analytics on defense. We want folks either we don't want folks getting all the way to the rim, and we have AD to prevent that. And we don't want folks taking three-pointers, so we're going to chase him off of the three line. That doesn't work with Thomas Bryant back there. And the first few games, well, the Lakers won that first game when AD got hurt. And then after that, they just started getting completely annihilated on defense because the scheme was still to funnel ball handlers towards the big man. But Bryant has almost no defensive skills whatsoever. Everything he's done for the Lakers while AD's been out has been, at least on the positive side, has been great offense for Bryant. And the Lakers quickly realized they needed to adjust that. So they changed a bit how they've been playing defense. Bryant's been able to drop a little bit more, and teams are still coming right after him. Now, what does that mean? Well, the Lakers have the Kings next, which means Domantas Sabonis in the middle. And it probably means Bryant's going to have to play because Wenyen Gabriel, as great as he looked yesterday, 14-9 with a steal and 2 blocks, I can't imagine that he can handle the size of Sabonis. Bryant's not going to be able to stick with him, from an offensive move standpoint, but you just need girth. You need to be able to push a little bit, and Bryant is bigger in that regard. So I don't know what the Lakers are going to do in that next ball game exactly. The thing that I do think is happening is that it's becoming a bit more of a timeshare because Gabriel seems to be getting a little bit better every ball game. Bryant, teams are exploiting a little more every ball game. And if I'm a fantasy player, which I suppose I am, I'm probably benching Bryant and Gabriel until we see either of them kind of move in front or possibly just bench him until AD comes back. It really might be that neither of them holds consistent value from now until whenever it is that Anthony gets back on the court. I did warn you guys all about Dennis Schroeder. He was running really hot with his shot, and now he's not anymore. And he's quite bad when he's not knocking down jumpers. As far as Houston goes, a couple very small nuggets on the Rockets that I don't think changed thing all that much. Kevin Porter Jr. expected to be back for their next ball game, so if you were hoping to squeeze a little more out of KJ Martin, probably no. Eric Gordon is trying to play his way right out of town right now. This is like full audition mode for him. He is attacking. He is engaged. He didn't even shoot 3-pointers in that game yesterday. He was just going at Thomas Bryant. He was basically like a de facto point guard for the Rockets. He actually looked pretty freaking good. He looked old when they showed a close-up of his face, but he looked good on the floor, and that surprised the hell out of me because I think I'd seen him move that well in a really long time. He's also playing in back-to-backs. So he falls into one of those categories we talk about where, like, he doesn't do that many things. He scores, typically hits threes, like 1 steal a game. Percentages are not that great. Profiles generally a bit more as a points league type of guy. But again, if you're targeting a few categories on the head-to-head side, now that he's playing in back-to-backs, he does make more sense than he did before. And then with Jabari Smith and Jalen Green, what can you do? You kind of just have to throw your hands in the air and say, please just let him have an efficient ball game on any given night. And typically they haven't. Generally, young guys get better as the season goes on. The Jalen Green thing is a little bit frustrating, though, because he did seem to turn an efficiency corner late last year and has instead now taken a big step backwards. With Jabari Smith, he's just young and lean and getting bonked around by NBA players. I actually do think he continues to slowly get better this year, but you can't really sell low on either of them because then you're just cashing in at the wrong time. It's tough. Like, you want to try to get something for these types of dudes, but you almost kind of can't. Because if you did now, you'd get like Bogdanovich, who we were just talking about earlier in the year. He's a buy low, but you don't want to get him for a sell low. Ah, well. Buy low, sell low, no. Again, we'll do some more work on the Bogdanovich stuff over on Twitter. I am also curious what the perceived value is of these two young Rockets, sophomore and rookie, respectively. What do people think Jabari Smith is the rest of the year? What do people think of Jalen Green? Because right now, just looking at the actual rankings, Jabari Smith is 146, which I believe is ahead of Green. Yeah, Jalen's number 202 because he's fully sinking you in like 5 categories this year. Woof. Actually, I didn't even realize. Under 1 steal per game, 0.2 blocks, 40.5% super high volume from the field, and sub 80 at the free throw line. And that's just 3 turnovers a game and only 3.5 assists. Yeesh. You know me. You know I don't typically draft the younger guys. So there's a little bit of element of surprise to looking at this. But anyway, that's the way that is. Hey, thank you for listening, everybody. Recorded podcast listeners, remember, you can always pop over to our live YouTube recordings, which I'm attempting to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday every week, if possible. And also, I think I'll want to tease it here that Aaron Brewski, the great Brew, will be on 2 YouTube shows a week, possibly starting as early as next week. And I think we might get him on one this week as well. One of them will be together, so that'll be a lot of fun. Me and Brew, like the good old days here. And then another might be a Brew solo Brewski breakdown podcast. Wouldn't you guys love that? Crap, I'd love that. So that's another reason to go subscribe to our YouTube page. Again, speaking directly here to the recorded listeners who haven't gone and checked it out, that's over at youtube.com/sportsethos. We also do a live Q&A at the end of all of our YouTube shows. So again, yet another reason to go check out youtube.com/sportsethos. Head on over to our Twitter account here at Dan Besbris, and we will continue the fantasy discussion over there today. Just a short Tuesday card before we wrap things up. You guys know I like to do this quick little lightning round preview. So here's the Tuesday card. Again, those that are, this is not a whole lot. Toronto, does anybody rest on the back-to-back? Because we were talking on yesterday's show about guys like Precious Achiuwa, not Pascal Siakam, Chris Boucher getting a bump on top of the 5-game week because of the expectation that some folks just won't be able to play in all 5. And off an overtime game, you've got to think that this would be one they might skip. But Milwaukee's only favored by 2.5, which tells me that Giannis is probably still out in this game. We know Middleton's still out, but he's getting close. The other side of the back-to-back for the Bucks, if you wanted to try Joe Ingles, it probably wouldn't be the worst idea in the world, but I probably won't. Brooklyn, just still getting a feel for any of those 3 fill-in guys. Harris, Curry, Warren. I think they continue to rotate, and I think Royce O'Neal's the guy who stays kind of above the board there. For the Spurs, a lot of Jakob Poeltl trade rumors floating in right now. Yeah, I don't know what you do with him. You're not going to be able to move him for fair value right now because everybody knows he's on the block, but he's been really good lately. So I don't know. Maybe you can squeeze something out, or maybe you just have to hope he gets moved to a spot where a team's going to use him for 30 minutes a ball game. That's a hope. I don't think a team who would give up the assets for Jakob Poeltl to use him as a backup. I got to think through whatever teams need a center right now. Portland and Denver, not a whole lot to look at in this ball game. I think these teams are generally healthy right now, so, whatever. Philly at Clippers. DeAnthony Melton is questionable with an illness. Although I think they're saying he is actually still expected, so he's a little closer to probable than questionable. I just want to know what his role is going to be, and you got to hold on until we figure it out. And then for the Clippers, this might be the good news of the day. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm crossing my toes. I'm crossing my eyes. I'm crossing my teeth. I'm rolling my tongue. Paul George practiced in full yesterday. He is questionable to make his return again from another hamstring thing. And then how long will we have him healthy before he's back out again? But whatever, it would be really useful if he plays. And then you'll also see a pretty stark drop off for guys like Terrence Mann, Norman Powell, Marcus Morris, if you wanted to go that far down the line. When the Clippers are fully healthy, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard sometimes are the only two guys you can play on the team. Zubac is kind of the next guy, but we know he's also quite a lot better when one of the stars goes down. So a lot of health report stuff. I mean, it's kind of always what we're watching in the NBA right now. And that now officially is the end of our Tuesday podcast. This once again was Fantasy NBA Day, a Sports Ethos presentation. I'll see all y'all crazies over on Twitter. So long for now. And if you're watching live on YouTube, don't click the off button because this is when we close out the box score window. I think I'd like to switch it over actually to the player rank screen. But how fast can I do that? You guys are just going to watch me stare like an idiot at my screen. Here, we're going to do it all together. Okay, there we go. Let's scroll all the way up to the top. You guys saw me. I was looking at Jalen Green there while we were doing our podcast. So now you guys can see the player ranks as I go through this stuff. But let's go back to the top and we'll go through some of these comments. Those of you that are still watching here live on YouTube, please do click that like button. We want to try to squeeze a few more of those out here. Subscribe to the YouTube page, and this is your chance to throw a live question in the chat room, wherever that might be for you on your screen. I'm running low on Squirt. I love me some Squirt. Jordan, Harden for Poole and D'Angelo Russell. No, Harden. Harden side by a lot. Better rest of season. Grimes, Fultz, Bogdan, Mathurin. I think I'd go Bogdan over Fultz, over Grimes, over Mathurin. And the top three in that, I think you could play in Roto leagues also. Mathurin, I don't think makes the cut for Roto. He's more of a specialist appeal. How many leagues am I squatting on Isaiah Jackson until February 9th? 0, actually. Most of my leagues are extremely competitive, and then the Yahoo public prize leagues have 3 IL slots, so someone's been kind of sitting on him all year. There's just like generally enough players in those leagues to not run behind. And then I punted on Isaiah Jackson when he stopped even getting on the floor back in, what was that, late November, early December. And then generally other folks were faster to get him on this Miles Turner injury for whatever reason. Hey, what's up, Jared? It's going okay. Little man's got a fever, but he seems to be hanging in there all right. Yeah, man. Dude, Blake is the best. If you guys haven't checked out Blake, he is at Blake Creamer SE. He is the host of our Fantasy NHL Today show. Yes, we have a fantasy hockey show at this damn website. And Blake and I are weirdly kindred spirits. I think we're close in age, and we appear to have grown up on all of the same raunchy cartoons and video games. Go check out his stuff. What's up, dude? Not Reggie Jackson. He's deep in the doghouse. Bones, I think, is questionable. Ugh, tough call. I think if Bones is playing, he's your choice there. If Bones is not playing, it's got to be John Carter. Yeah. You're right, Jordan. I mean, that's the thing, man. This is a terrible business model. We want to be very good at fantasy, and then we want folks to tell other people about us, but they also don't want to lose. So I don't know. How can I incentivize you guys to tell your league mates about Sports Ethos? Maybe I should do this. I'm going to come up with a promo that incentivizes people for telling their league about my podcast or my Twitter, whatever's it. Maybe my Twitter is the easiest one because then I can just do everything from there. I'll come up with this and I'll do it on Twitter where, like, if you can screenshot telling your league to follow at Dan Bespris on Twitter, then I'll give you like some number of months of our fantasy pass or something like that. Don't quote me. I got to get the details right, but I got to figure out some way because every one of you has 11 people they could tell about Sports Ethos and Fantasy NBA Today and all this good stuff we do here, but all of you don't want to do it because you don't want to lose. But if we give you premium, then you have something your league mates don't have. They're stuck with just the free stuff, which is good. This show is free, but premium's juicy, man. Roto Dan. Yeah, I really am. What's up, dude? I agree. Let's get those likes going. Yeah, it's a good question. Honestly, like I kind of forget where Herter is sitting on a game-to-game basis. He's at 83 right now. You can see that on your screen. Um, that's probably accurate. Got off to a really hot start. He was like top 50, and he fell back, and he had a couple good ball games. This seems repeatable. I think his free throw percent probably goes up, and his field goal probably ticks down a little bit, but otherwise, seems fine. I'm not sure either of those guys is going to play both halves of the back-to-back. And also, if Paul George comes back, I don't know if Rocco gets to keep playing. This is a really hard question because I don't fully know what the Clippers' rotations are going to look like at any given moment. Oh, man. If you told me that Covington was still going to get 20-some-odd minutes, I would go him. Batum's minutes seem safer, though, so I'll probably go Batum. Yes, TJ over Nemhart, but I'm holding both. Yeah, buddy. Triple-double slow-mo. What's up, Timothy? Let's see. I did a trade where I traded Jalen Brunson for Sengun about a week ago. I was nervous about it until yesterday. Honestly, I think you should probably still be just a tiny bit nervous about it because Sengun's not going to be that great every ball game, and Brunson is a little bit more trustworthy. He's ranked about 15, 16 slots higher. That's probably where they end up unless, and this maybe is why you made the call, if the Rockets do tweak things to run offense more through Sengun, that's the way that he moves to that upper echelon. But he was freaking fired up yesterday, man. Everybody's fired up to play LeBron and not have to deal with Anthony Davis in the interior. I didn't see that news, Alex, but if it's true, that's great. Likewise, Noah. Kirk Angeles. Might be Angeles. I'm going to go with Los Angeles pronunciation. Yeah, he's on the block. He doesn't strike me as a guy who gets traded to a place where they're just going to like give him 35 minutes. He probably goes to a place where he does pretty much what he's doing in Utah right now, which is energy ball. So I don't know that his value has a great chance of going up. Not great, Mehmet. He's he's getting extra shots right now with Markkanen and Olynyk out. His rest of season projection looks much better if the Jazz trade Conley and anyone else, frankly. Like, if two guys get out of the way, then Sexton's a go. Yeah, I agree. 0. I mean, I think where he gets traded, it's basically the same situation. Yeah, Sexton's been good lately because Markkanen's been out, basically. Better for points league, typically, like we've been talking about, because he doesn't do much besides score. A couple of assists, doesn't really get many steals, doesn't hit many threes. Free throws are okay, but not that great of a percentage. Turnovers are usually a little bit on the high side. I understand that. There's situations where he makes a lot of sense, but it's going to get worse before it gets better, unless Utah trades some dudes before injured guys come back. That's the weird timeline calculus you're working with there. I actually think the answer to this is yes. I think Oladipo can retain value once all the guards come back. Because he's not doing it with a ton of shots, the steals, the assists. Like, there's just like a nice well-roundedness to his game right now. Oh, yeah, Dan is live. What's up, dude? Let's do a question. In a competitive 10-team league, who's the best sell high? Walker Kessler, Bam, or Draymond Green? I think it's got to be Kessler. But at the same time, I kind of just like what he's doing, so I don't know that I want to sell on Kessler all that badly. But, like, Bam and Draymond, they have their value. I don't think it's really changing. People have their perception of what those guys are fantasy-wise. And a good week, bad week, good month, bad month. It doesn't really change what people think they are or could be. Kessler is the mystery box. So when he has a big month, people adjust what they think he's going to be in a way that they just don't with more established names. So if you're just asking who has the highest above, like who's on the arc, Walker. I'm trading Paul George and Hield for Anthony Davis and maybe Keldon Johnson. Holy crap. Honestly, I don't know that you should need to include Hield and Keldon, given Paul George is probably going to play tonight. A healthy Paul George for an injured AD is not like that insane. That's a lot to give up if Anthony Davis comes back and then decides he doesn't want to play anymore. Top 2 best sell high. Now we've added Luka to the mix. Well, it's still Kessler and I don't know, man. Again, these other names are so established that you're not going to get a high or a low with those dudes. So it just sort of doesn't. There isn't really a high or a low. Bam, Draymond, Luka, those guys are all sell, not high or low, sell neutral. There's no second answer. Sorry, dude. Hab's getting all the questions in here before the show comes to JJJ, Bam, Draymond, Butler, and Luka. Yeah, I think JJJ is a sell high. Because he's been insane right now, but like he still hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. Still, if you can get a first rounder for JJJ, I would do it. And then the other one there is probably Butler, not because he's playing over himself. He's number 10, and he could very well keep that up. It's just that you want to kind of get out before an injury hits. So it's less about value being in a weird spot than whether he can stay upright. Is Sengun more valuable in a dynasty league than Brandon Ingram, Duren, or Kessler? Yeah, I'm going to go with yes on this one. His ceiling is crazy high. Ingram can't stay healthy. Duren's ceiling isn't as high. Kessler does have a pretty damn good ceiling, but we don't know how the minutes for Walker are going to shake out over a career arc. Like, is this someone that's going to be a building block for Utah, or does he cap out? Do teams start to figure things out a little bit? I think Sengun at the top for me, then Kessler, then Ingram, then Duren. And I know that's really crazy to put Kessler also above Brandon Ingram. I'm just sort of down on him. And until I see him stay healthy, I don't have any reason not to. No, not 3 to 4 times a week. Me, I'm doing my show 4 times. Aaron will probably be on one of them. And then he'll probably have his own single show. So I guess altogether it might be 5, but not all. We won't be on the same show. That's Basketball Monster. It's a really good player ranking page. I will post the link in the chat room right now. So there you go. Yeah. No, I think he's finally starting to play a little bit better. I don't think you can get enough for him still, even. If you could get a top 50, you should do it. I just don't think you can. Yeah, exactly. What's up, Jeffrey? It's a funny story. Jalen Duren lost his passport. Kids these days. Yeah, we gotta get everybody healthy. What's up, Omar? Should we be nervous about Josh Hart? No, not really. He's a little bit in his own head about his shooting. I do think Gary Payton could hurt his minutes a tiny bit, but it's the ebb and flow of a long NBA season. That's why we play season long and not DFS. We don't have to worry about a couple of bad ball games when you know what a player is. Is Kelly Olynyk a hold? The answer is probably not. And you guys know how much I love Kelly O, and he's a top 80 type of fantasy guy, but we don't really know how long he's going to be out. And the rule for me of thumb is generally I'll hold a guy for 2 weeks if they're top 80 range, but they need to be more like top 60 if I'm going to go beyond that. It's just sort of like a stashing conversation. If you can manage, you hold everybody, but you also don't want to fall down in the standings. I've seen him hit the waiver wire in a lot of my leagues because it's just too hard. There's too many guys injured right now to take zeros from a guy who's pretty good. Kelly Olynyk has been pretty good, but he's not a game changer when he's healthy. When do you start configuring trades and streams for your playoffs? Trades now. You can start looking at trades now. Streams not until like maybe 2 weeks out. It's too close. There's too much movement yet to come. It's a good question, though, by the way. Prefuse 83. Yeah, that is a nasty duo. Would you trade Trey Jones and Mike Porter Jr. for Drew Holiday? Yes, I certainly would. And that's where I got to put a pin in it. We're an hour and 6 minutes deep on this bad boy. Anybody that made it to the end, please do click that like button. Please subscribe. I'll try to be back with you guys again tomorrow with another one of these live shows. And we'll continue to try to do some of this stuff at the end there. Oh, all right, Jared. Best waiver wire ad of the season and who's been my worst waiver wire? I mean, I had so many waiver wire guys that I then throw back into the pond. Walker Kessler has been one of the best, I think. Duren's been a pretty good one until he got hurt. Royce O'Neal was really good for a while. A lot of the guys are injury fill-in types that were on the waiver wire. I'm in a lot of competitive leagues, so it's really hard to find guys that aren't just injury replacements. So it's probably Kessler. Yeah. You are very welcome. Everybody, that's me on Twitter. Wait, let me make my face a little bit larger so you can see that joint. That's me on Twitter. If you're watching on YouTube, you got to come with me over there to social. Thank you, everybody. Good crowd today. Great questions. Back at you tomorrow. So long for now.